It's 6 p.m. now, Cairo local time. It's a very good evening to our viewers and welcome to Channel 2's English News Bulletin. I'm Angie Meher joining you with our bulletin. We begin straight away with a look at the headlines. President Fattah el-Sisi holds press conference with Angolan counterpart and they witness signing of joint agreements. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli presides over cabinet meeting to discuss number of political, economic and social files. Israeli occupation bombardment of Mawasi kills scores of Palestinians, including children. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We begin with a look at the news. President Fattah el-Sisi asserted Egypt's readiness to support Angola, especially in the fields of developing and building capabilities in different sectors, in addition to upgrading the state's institutions. President's remarks came during a press conference with the visiting Angolan President, João Lourenço, who is the current chair of the African Union, following their talks in Cairo. The joint press conference was held after closed sessions of talks and an expanded meeting attended by the two sides' delegations. Addressing the conference, President el-Sisi hailed historical bilateral ties that join Egypt and Angola, where the two leaders outlined mechanisms to foster the work of the African Union and promote continental integration. The talks also focused on maintaining peace and security across the African continent, as well as the situation in Gaza and the current economic challenges, as well as issues related to climate change. President el-Sisi and Angola's president also witnessed the signing of a number of agreements and memoranda of understanding between the two countries in the fields of communications, information technology, housing and infrastructure. During their talks, President el-Sisi also noted that the Angolan president's vision for the chairmanship of the African Union during this year topped the agenda's talks, especially on the current developments in the Horn of Africa, Sudan, combating terrorism, and the developments in DRC. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli presided over a cabinet meeting on Tuesday to discuss a number of political, economic and social files on the government's agenda. The meeting also tackled Prime Minister's tour in Egypt's Future for Sustainable Development Authority upon directives by President el-Sisi for the government to cover and facilitate all the people's needs and continue exerting efforts to decrease inflation and increase spending on pivotal sectors such as health, education and social protection. Also, the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, witnessed on Tuesday the signing ceremony of a strategic alliance agreement between Pharma, the Egyptian drug city, and the American company, Pharmaceuticals, to boost medicine production in Egypt. This in addition to obtaining accreditation from the US FDA. Madbouli said the Egyptian pharmaceutical industry is a vital field for new trade and investment, fostering mutual growth between the US and Egypt, and it receives considerable attention from President Fattah el-Sisi. The Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, also witnessed on Tuesday the signing of a fundamental agreement of two companies for fiber and polyester production through clothing and plastic waste recycling. Madbouli noted utilizing industrial waste and agricultural waste economically has become fundamental in Egypt's 2030 vision. The projects are to enhance Egyptian products' competitiveness in international markets and open new export horizons for exports. The Foreign Minister, Dr. Badr Abdelati, stressed during a phone call with his Somali counterpart, Abdulsalam Abdiali, Cairo's support for the unity and stability of Somalia and its national institutions. He also reiterated support for efforts to achieve stability and security in Somalia. Abdelati stressed the depth of ties between Egypt and Somalia, which have been alleviated to the level of strategic partnership during the visit of the Somali president. For his part, the Somali Foreign Minister expressed his appreciation to efforts by Cairo to support his country on various levels. He said he valued Egypt's participation in the African Union delegation sent to support stability in Somalia. And scores of Palestinians were killed and injured in the Moessi area to the west of Gaza City of Khan Yunis in strong bombardments by the Israeli occupation troops. The bombardment targeted tents housing refugees in the area. 44 Palestinians were killed and scores others injured, including children, in the continued Israeli occupation bombardments. Israeli massacres have been continuing since the occupation army breached a ceasefire in March, bringing the total death toll since October of 2023 to over 52,000 people. The United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, said more than 50 of its staff in Gaza were abused and used as human shields whilst in Israeli occupation detention. UNRWA head Lazzarini wrote that those detained had been subjected to sleep deprivation, humiliation, threats of harm to them and their families, as well as attacks by dogs. The UN Aid Agency for Palestinian Refugees warned Israel's blockade on aid had become a silent killer in the war-ravaged Palestinian territory, with children and the sick suffering the most.
حتى وصل
Rights group Amnesty International on Tuesday accused Israel of committing a live-stream genocide against Palestinians in Gaza by forcibly displacing most of the population and deliberately creating a humanitarian catastrophe. In its annual report, a Syria war monitor said 9 people were killed in clashes near Damascus as authorities blamed gunmen and vowed to pursue those involved. The Britain-based monitor, which relies on a network of sources inside Syria, said 6 Druze fighters and 3 attackers were killed. The overnight clashes sparked by the circulation on social media of Interior Ministry reported intermittent clashes between groups of gunmen, adding that security forces went to break up the clashes and protect the residents. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine needs to happen soon, adding that the Trump administration will spend the coming week trying to determine whether to continue as a mediator. Rubio spoke a day after President Donald Trump and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky met in Rome during the funeral of Pope Francis to revive faltering efforts to end Russia's war in Ukraine. Rubio said Washington has held off imposing sanctions on Russia to allow diplomacy to work, but warned that Trump has options for dealing with any party that resists a peace deal. The French foreign minister said at the United Nations that France, Germany and the United Kingdom will not hesitate to reimpose sanctions against Iran if European security is threatened by Iran's nuclear program. The West suspects Iran is pursuing nuclear weapons, which it denies. The threat of renewed sanctions is intended to pressure Tehran into concessions, making detailed discussions on strategy between the Americans and Europeans vital. Pakistan is preparing international legal action over India's suspension of a key river water sharing treaty, according to a government minister, as tensions intensify between the neighbors following an attack on tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir. Pakistan is also considering taking action at the Permanent Court of Arbitration or at the International Court of Justice in The Hague, where it could allege that India has violated the 1960 Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties. And now moving to some economic news. Power had almost fully returned to Spain early Tuesday morning as many questions remained about what caused one of Europe's most severe blackouts that grounded flights, paralyzed metro systems, disrupted mobile communications and shut down ATMs across Spain and Portugal. According to the country's electricity operator, by 7 a.m. local time, more than 99% of energy demand in Spain had been restored. Tuesday morning, all of 89 power stations were back online, since late last night after an absolutely unusual blackout, and power was restored to all 6.4 million customers. Inside, hundreds of people waited to board trains or rebook those that had been cancelled the previous day. Power had gradually returned to several regions across Spain and Portugal as the nations reeled from the still unexplained widespread blackout that had turned airports and train stations into campgrounds for stranded travellers. The dollar recouped some of its losses on Tuesday, supported by reports that the U.S. administration may ease planned tariffs, although investor caution lingered over whether a meaningful de-escalation in the U.S.-China trade conflict was in motion. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump is set to take steps on Tuesday to soften the impact of his more automotive tariffs. The U.S. dollar index, a measure of greenback value relative to a basket of foreign currencies, strengthened 0.15% to 99.23 after falling 0.58% the previous day. The greenback climbed 0.45% against the Swiss franc to 0.8237, gaining 0.33% to 142.46 yen, with trading subdued due to a holiday in Japan. Welcome back now to the exciting world of sports. The Egyptian team won 5 medals in gymnastics in the Mediterranean Games, including a gold medal, a silver medal, and 3 bronze medals. Egyptian gymnastics team won 10 medals at the African Gymnastics Championship, including 4 gold, 2 silver, and 4 bronze. This championship is the last in a series of championships in 2025. Moving to the NBA world, where players on the Warriors and Houston Rockets got into a shoving altercation midway through the second quarter of Golden State's 109-106 win Monday night. And with basketball, we wrap up our sports segment and the evening's English news bulletin here on Channel 2. I'm Angie Meher. Thank you for watching.